Well, hello and welcome back to some of you listeners that like to listen to me every week, and from some new ones, welcome. I'm Misheard from Misheard Song Lyrics podcast, and this is season 2, episode 92, and it's our first ever Juice Newton misheard lyric. The misheard lyric is just floss your teeth before you leave me, baby. And the correct lyrics is just touch my cheek before you leave me, baby. This is from her favorite, or actually my favorite song in the 80s, and from one of her biggest hits, Angel of the Morning. And this Juice Newton misheard lyric would be a perfect public service announcement from dentists anywhere. You know, when you go and see your dentist, every 6 months or every year for some, or maybe longer, they always ask the dreaded question, how often do you floss? Well, just floss your teeth before you leave me sounds like a dentist leaving this beautiful Juice Newton in the morning. I am one that flosses daily and still my gums bleed. So I don't know why. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I digress. Anyway, like I said, I love the song. It reminds me of junior high dances, roller skating, and everything amazing about the 80s. One thing I do need to warn you about is this episode has many did you knows and twists and turns and even a connection to where I'm from, which is in the Pacific Northwest. So some of you that are listening outside of the United States, it's Pacific Northwest is considered the Oregon State, Washington State area. And so there's some of those connections too. So let's begin. Angel of the Morning is a popular song written by Chip Taylor and recorded by many artists, most notably by a Mary Lee Rush, which I thought Angel in the Morning was an original by Juice Newton. I've come to find out, and you'll find out after hearing this episode, there are many covers of this song. And it actually was, again, notably done by Mary Lee Rush, but P.P. Arnold did it, Connie Eden, Mary Mason, Guys and Dolls, Melba Montgomery, Olivia Newton-John I didn't even know about, and Juice Newton. So the question first is, who is Chip Taylor? Why should we worry about who he is other than that he wrote this amazing song? Well, he was actually born James Wesley Voigt back on March 21st, 1940. He's an American songwriter noted for, of course, writing Angel of the Morning, and he wrote the Troggs' Wild Thing. Remember that song, Wild Thing? He wrote that too. But there's still another thing that you need to know about him. He also is the brother of actor Jon Voight, that's why that last name looks really familiar, and geologist Barry Voight, and the uncle of none other actress Angelina Jolie, and then her actor brother James Haven. So this is a star-studded family. Again, his songs have been covered by many that I've just mentioned. There's even more. Also the Troggs, which is Wild Thing, and Mary Lee Rush and Juice Newton, and Anne Murray. I found it Ace Frehley on the Wikipedia site, Jimi Hendrix, Chrissie Hynde from The Pretenders, Linda Ronstadt, and Emmylou Harris. So amazing. I mean, that's okay. Did you know number 1 and 2? So let's talk about the background on the song origin. So apparently Chip Taylor, aka brother of Jon Voight, composed it in 1967, and he said, quote unquote, I wrote Angel of the Morning after hearing the Rolling Stones song Ruby Tuesday on the car radio when I was driving to New York City, and I wanted to capture that kind of passion, which he did. And the did you know number 3 was he actually wrote Angel of the Morning for Connie Francis. Remember Connie Francis? Beautiful 50s starlet as well as singer. She turned it down because she thought that the love affair lyrical message was too risque for her image. So it would have been a Connie Francis song. So then Chip Taylor produced the first recorded song with an Evie Sands, but because of the financial straits of Cameo Parkway Records, which had Sands on their roster, it led to a highly limited single release and no promotion. That's why we don't know about it. The second recording was by a UK vocalist, Billy Davis, made in 1967 by Danny Michaels for Lee Hazelwood's LHI label. And then P.P. Arnold, there's where that name comes up, provided backup vocals for this version and later released a version alone. The song actually became a hit in 1968 through a recording by Mary Lee Rush. We'll talk more about Mary Lee in a second, but made that January at American Sound Studios in Memphis with Chips Moorman and Tommy Cogbill producing. Rush had come to Memphis through the studios in Memphis through the group she fronted, the Turnabouts at that time, being the opening act for Paul Revere and the Raiders, who's also from the Northwest too. So there's that second connection. The first connection is actually Rush herself. She was born in Seattle, Washington, grew up in Seattle's North End, and studied classical piano from a young age. And then in 1960, she auditioned and became the singer for the Amazing Aztecs, a Seattle area rock and roll band led by saxophone player Neil Rush, whom she later would marry, and that became Mary Lee Rush. The two went on to form Mary Lee and Her Men, doing mostly cover versions of pop hits, and then joined rhythm and blues group Tiny Tony and the Statics, whose original hit, Hey Mrs. Jones, on the Bolo label featured Rush's keyboard playing and vocals. Then in 1965, the pair formed Mary Lee Rush and the Turnabouts, who soon became popular act on the Pacific Northwest teen dance hall circuit. A member of the group's road crew also worked for Paul Revere and the Raiders, and through this connection, there's the Northwest connection, Rush was invited to be the opening act on the Raiders tour of the Southern United States in 1967. And while they were in Memphis, Tennessee, Raiders lead vocalist Mark Lindsay introduced Rush to record producer Chips Moman. So here's the connection. So while in Memphis, Tennessee, the Raiders recorded the album Going to Memphis at American Sound Studios, which led to Rush's discovery by Tommy Cogill, which had been hoping to find the right voice for Angel in the Morning. Because remember, Connie Francis didn't want to do it. He had kept a tape of the demo of that song constantly in his pocket for several months. So it was like fate that he met Mary Lee. Then Mary Lee recorded the song and tracks, which would fill out her Angel in the Morning album with the American Soundhouse Band, even though the single on the album would be credited to the group Mary Lee Rush and the Turnabouts. That's interesting. The single, how did it do? Well, it was released in February of 1968 and reached the top 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 that June, peaking to number 7, also reaching number 1 in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and number 4 in the Netherlands. The song earned Rush a Grammy Award nomination for Best Contemporary Pop Female Vocalist of the Year. So put a pin on that because we're going to talk about that later on. She was actually nominated against some heavy hitters. Barbra Streisand for Funny Girl, which probably was, the movie came out at that same time. Dionne Warwick's Do You Know the Way to San Jose? Aretha Franklin's I Say a Little Prayer, and Mary Hopkins' Those Were the Days, who won, unfortunately not Mary Lee, Warwick won for her song, Do You Know the Way to San Jose? So did you know, number 4, Rush recorded a new version of the song of her 1977 album release, and then Rush's version of Angel in the Morning would be featured on the soundtrack of a 1999 film called Girl Interrupted, whose time frame is from 1967 and 68, in which author-composer Chip Taylor's niece, Angelina Jolie, had a starring role. So let's just go down that rabbit hole. Girl Interrupted was a 1999 American psychological drama directed by James Mangold and starred Winona Ryder was the main lead, Angelina Jolie, so now we know she's the niece of Chip Taylor who wrote the song, and many other names like Brittany Murphy, Whoopi Goldberg, a young Elizabeth Moss, Vanessa Redgrave, and Jared Leto. And it was based on Susanna Kayson's memoir of the same name. The film follows a young woman after a suicide attempt, and when she spends 18 months at a psych hospital between 1967 and 68, which was perfect to why they wanted to use probably Angelina Jolie's uncle's song, because it's perfect in that sense. It was on that same era too. Girl Interrupted began as a limited release on December 21st in 1999, then with a wide expansion on January 14, 2000. The film received mixed reviews from critics, although Jolie's performance received a critical acclaim, winning her I think, only Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, a Golden Globes Award for Best Supporting Actress, Motion Picture, and a Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by a Female Actor in a Supporting Role. So there you go. All right. Let's now talk about the Juice Newton cover that started all this misheard song lyrics talk, and back to coming from some of the rabbit holes we went to. All right, the Juice Newton cover was the highest charting and best-selling version in the U.S. and was recorded and released back in 1981. So I knew it was in the early 80s by country rock singer Juice Newton for her album Juice. And for those of you who don't know Juice Newton, look her up. She was very beautiful. I thought she was actually a model back in the day, because that was when long hair, curly, feathered bangs. She looked really tall, and she also wore, what was really popular back then, the denim jeans or her Calvin Kleins and an Oxford shirt. So she, was the cat's meow then. Anyway, she reinterpreted the song after a suggestion from a Steve Meyer who promoted Capitol Records singles and albums to radio stations and felt a version of Angel of the Morning by Newton would be a strong candidate for airplay. Boy, was Mr. Steve Meyer right. Newton would state that she would never have herself thought of recording Angel of the Morning, and even though she immediately recognized the song when Meyer played it for her, here's her quote: "I hadn't been really aware of that song because when it was popular, I was listening to folk music and R&B and not pop, and that was a very pop song." So Newton's version, how did it do? Well, her version reached number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100, number 22 on the Billboard Country Music chart, so there's a crossover success here, and spent 3 weeks on number 1 on the Billboard Adult Contemporary chart in April of that year. The Did You Know number 5 is the recording also earned Newton a Grammy Award in the same category as Marilee Rush's 1968 hit. But I didn't check in there to see if she won it that year or not. We'll see in a sec. So more than 1 million of units of Newton's single was sold in the US, and it reached the top 10 in the number of other countries, including Canada and Australia. And the next Did You Know 6 is Newton's video for Angel in the Morning was the first country music video aired on MTV. I did not know that. Debuting the day the network launched in 1981. In the UK, this recording reached number 43 on the UK singles charts, debuting, reached number 43 on the US singles chart, making the song's third appearance on their chart without becoming a truly major hit. A lot of stuff on this. And then for some of you younger than me, remember, this song was actually sampled on Shaggy's song Angel, and he was a reggae artist at that time. He was known for that song, Wasn't Me. He did Angel using some of the, like I said, sampling of the song of Angel in the Morning, and he also sampled another song as well too. So he likes to do that, and it actually reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for the week ending March 31st, 2001. So a lot of touches with this song, a lot of covers, a lot of connections. Who knew, to Angelina Jolie and Jon Voight? But here's a couple pop culture references to name a few. So the Marilee Rush version of the song is featured in the soundtrack, like I shared earlier, in Girl Interrupted, and a Violet and Daisy, as well as an NBC television series, The Blacklist. So a lot of people reference it, so apparently they use this song. Rush's version is referenced in the Stephen King novel The Langoliers from the collection 4 Past Midnight. The song was also performed live by Chrissie Hynde of the Pretenders in a 1995 episode of Friends titled The One with the Baby on the Bus, and that version also appears in that show's soundtrack album. Though released as a single, it did not chart. So there's a connection now to Chrissie Hynde of the Pretenders and Friends. Juice Newton's version is heard during Drew Barrymore's first scene in the film Charlie's Angels. I love it. In the film Charlie Wilson's War, in which it also sung by Emily Blunt. The opening titles of Deadpool, which is a lot of reference to Deadpool as well, and in the soundtrack. And I didn't catch this, but in the film It Chapter 2, and the endings of The Meddler and Promising Young Woman. It's also featured in Season 1 of HBO's True Detective and Season 5, Episode 11 at NBC's store called Superstore. And it's also in an ad, a Toyota Highlander ad called Kid Cave commercial, where it aired from late 2010, featuring a young boy who is embarrassed by his parents singing the song while he's riding with them in a car. The song also features a parody version in Family Guy with Peter Griffin portraying himself as Deadpool. Whoa, I had no idea of all these connections. I'm glad I did this. And again, it's not just floss your teeth before you leave me. It's just touch my cheek. And if you watch the video and you watch it again, it's a video back and forth between her and her band performing it, and her in her negligee in her room. And you never see the male, but he touches her cheek. He's in like in a red shirt. So we're guessing she's either 1, having an affair, or 2, a woman of the evening. Pick your pick. Hope you learned a lot. I did. Thank you again. And I also want to do a shout out to some of our listeners that have been giving me some great ideas to do some shows. So please send them to Misheard Songs at Misheard Songs Podcast. Actually, please, let's do this again. Okay, please send all your ideas at misheard, MISSHEARD songs at gmail.com. You can also send your suggestions at any of our social media sites on Twitter at Misheard's Podcast, as well as Instagram, Facebook, of course. Hey, and if you want to also have some special deals, we are also on Patreon. We have some Patreon patrons where if you pay $5 a week or $10 a week, you get special things like getting this episode a couple days earlier before everyone else. And if you're a unicorn at $10 a week, or actually $10 a month, sorry, I wish a week, you also get an unedited video of the taping of our show. So there's a couple of you that do that, and we adore you for it. So please let us know. Or if you just want to give us a big chunk of money, just you can go and find, again, Misheard song lyrics, and we also have a PayPal link. So any way you can support us, it'll be great. But as I always say every week, please keep singing those songs wrong. Bye.